Oh, fabulous, fabulous day. Welcome, Laura, and Promptings Stories. This is one of those little podcasts that is developing over time where we get to meet entrepreneurs, what they do, what inspires them, and some of the stories that have to do with promptings of people acting on their promptings through a service that we offer. So we'll dive a little bit into that later, but let's just go right into it. I want to introduce you to my friend Laura, who is a phenomenal speaker, has done some international speaking, and she teaches and help others on their speaking journey. So Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited that you're doing this.
Fantastic to have you on. So diving right into it, who do you help and how exactly do you help them?
Thanks for asking that. I think the word promptings, when you said it, it's got so much built into it and so much inspiration built into it. And part of what I do is I think when people have that prompting, that calling, that they have a story to share, they have a message that is really important for them to get out, but maybe something's been blocking them, fear of public speaking, or they're not quite sure how to craft their message with more clarity. They're lacking some confidence, but they're prompted to do it by a higher calling, I believe. And I help them find their voice, believe in themselves more, gain confidence and clarity so they can get that story and that message out there.
Mm. Yeah. So as you were sharing, something that popped in my head is actually a flashback to something that from my own personal experience of not just being told to be quiet, so not to use my voice, but also physically being made to not use my voice by literally in school. This was in a different country. They would tape my mouth shut.
Oh, that's awful. No.
And as a child, that can definitely be traumatic. But as a child, what I reflected upon afterwards is that I did not let that piece of tape keep me quiet
Mm.
because I found a way to just remove it to where if you lick it from the inside, it falls off.
For you.
And then you can, and then your voice can come through again. But
Yeah.
something that I realized as I got older is that I still had that imaginary tape for a
Mm.
long time until I realized that removing it was all from the inside.
Mm. That's so true. Wow, what a metaphor for that. And I mean, yeah, metaphorically too. I mean, children, I think often have that tape over their mouth, like they're told to be quiet, so much. Like we're grown up, like when we are our true selves when we're children. It's just we have that strong sense of wonder. We haven't yet learned, imposter syndrome, or like we have no idea what that is, right? We can just be ourselves, and then we're told so often to be quiet. So it's really sad. So much of the journey with my clients is helping them get back in touch with that inner child and their true voice there. And often, a question I love to ask is, if you could go back and tell your child self one thing, what would it be? What would that message be? And then often part of that message can be intertwined into speeches and presentations that their particular audience may relate to.
Wow. And so how did you even get inspired to do this kind of work? Because it's not the kind of thing where we go to school and we're told, oh, this is something that you can do in your life. This is a focus that you can have. So how did you find that inspiration and that drive?
Yeah, I mean, you had the tape over your mouth. I think for me, it was more of it was, people talk about finding their voice, right? But for me, it was definitely a very literal journey. And as a child, I never in a million years would have believed this is the work I'm doing, being a speaker and a public speaking coach. I grew up with a severe stutter. And it was like, a monster lived in my throat. Like that's what I believed. The monster wasn't under my bed like most kids. It was in my throat. And when
Mm.
I wanted to speak or say a word, especially when people would ask me what my name was, for some reason that was the hardest to say, Laura. And you get asked what your name is all the time. And so, but when I wanted to try to speak, that monster, it's like it would wake up and it would just eat my word, and I couldn't get it out. And I tried to force it like past the monster. My face would turn all red. I'd lose my breath. And often I had to like stomp my foot or something to like literally just force that word physically out of my mouth. And a lot of times it just wouldn't come out. And of course you get made fun of as you're a kid, when you're a child. And so I was bullied for that. It I think to me manifested a lot of shame around that, and embarrassment. And that's hard. That got baked into my nervous system. So even though after years of speech therapy I was able to learn strategies to become much more fluid, it stayed with me. Like that shame stayed with me into my adult years, and even the stutter, even today, believe it or not, like as a speaker. And you can't shut me up nowadays. Like, right, I do stand-up comedy. I do all, like I do every kind of speaking you can imagine, and I love to be on a stage. It still comes up sometimes. I'll have a block on a word, but I know how to get around it now. But what I have broken through that's much more important to me is that shame. And it manifested in my adult world as social anxiety. Just being in a room filled with people, I'd have a panic attack. I could barely stand that. I believe I was born an introvert. Like I'm still a dedicated introvert. But the difference is now I love to connect with people on a meaningful level. I still have strategies I need to use if I'm in a big networking event and there's a lot of people. I know how to survive that and even enjoy it. In fact, I do workshops on networking for introverts, and part of it is just also knowing that balance with myself and the self-care that I need. If I am at a big conference, let's say thousands of people, I know I'm going to need some alone time too to recharge my batteries.
Mm.
But I did realize eventually, when I broke through my own fear, it was in a very unlikely place on a stage with a microphone. I entered a storytelling competition. And like I shared with you before, that promptings, I had this prompting where I couldn't live the way I was living anymore. It was exhausting to be in that much fear, and not having my voice, not being able to share the stories I wanted to share. It just became unbearable to me. And so I entered the storytelling competition. I like really faced my fear of speaking, and it was the most empowering moment of my life. Like getting up there, and I was scared to death. Like fear doesn't quite go away, but I do it anyway. I did it anyway. And I was so like proud of myself for doing, like my inner child was like, yes, girl, finally you got out there and did it. But what really mattered was afterwards, and having people come up to me. And I shared the story of being scared to death to speak and growing up with a stutter. And the people that came up to me afterwards that were inspired to now do the same, they're like, oh, I think I'm going to enter this competition. And like, that's what really meant the world to me. And eventually I figured out, that, okay, this is my aligned purpose, to help other people. If I can do it, I was so scared of public speaking for so many years. If I can break through it, I can do it. And I really leaned into studying storytelling because I think that's so important when we're speaking. If I can do that, then I knew I could help others do that. And that's what I do. That's why I do what I do.
Wow. And so through the evolution of you and your storytelling and how you're helping others, you also have an exciting project that's coming up that is going to be helping people around the world, basically, to put it mildly. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you. From an early age, I loved writing. I loved it. I would fall asleep to my mom on her typewriter. Like I have a thing for typewriters. This is real, by the way. And I think it was to me a way I could express myself and tell stories without worrying about speaking, without worrying about that monster waking up, right? So it's always been just my comfort zone in a way to just to be able to write. And my dream has been to publish a book for forever. For some reason, I've withheld that dream from myself for a long time.
Mm.
I don't quite know why. I've done a lot of other kinds of writing, but to really get a book out there, as you well know, it's not easy. That's why otherwise everyone would write a book. It's definitely takes a lot of work. But I've been working on this book that's aligned with, how I help my clients. So, and also I wanted it to have my own kind of quirky, dark. For those that know me, I have a very dark sense of humor and personality in some ways. So I wanted it to be infused with that and my love for horror and horror movies. So the book is The Public Speaking Horror Show. And it's 7 ways to kill it as a speaker. And I've got the death and horror motif like running throughout the book because I notice when we talk about public speaking, for those that are scared of it, there's so much of that baked in. Most people
Mhm.
would rather die than speak. I hear that all the time. And, stage fright, it's just so, so much of that fear, around public speaking. I'm just leaning right into that with the book and then how to really break through that. And if anything, the thing I've learned, this is the most important lesson I have learned that I want to share with anyone listening that I have in the book, is that what you fear will set you free. What you fear will set you free. And your fears are there often to lead you in the direction that you're meant to go in. It's so much of what like we're just scared to do could be a sign that it's something that we're meant to pursue more, if only to learn a lesson about it.
Gee, thanks. Um, now I'm going like, okay, those fear messages. Now I'm going to be thinking about this, going like, oh man, now I really got to move forward and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, even just with, public speaking in general, like if what you fear about speaking, right? Like getting up, giving a speech for something, a presentation, often we're scared about forgetting our words or being judged. Like even those particular specific fears can be telling you what you need to do, right? So if you're scared of forgetting your words, okay, there is a remedy for that, right? There is, you practice and you practice and you practice until you haven't just memorized your speech, you've internalized it. And that's not
Mm.
even a thing anymore. You're so comfortable with it that then you can be more spontaneous in your speech, right? So that could be something. If you're scared of judgment, then that's a little bit deeper, something that you need to work on, to really believe in yourself, to trust so much in your message that truly you believe other people's opinions are none of your business. They don't matter, which is true, right? But it's just your own mindset to work on with that and to gain that confidence that you need. So fear is a very useful tool in many ways.
It is, it is. And I've heard it before, and you probably have heard it as well, is everything that you want is on the other side of that fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
so people can be kept in the loop about your book because it's not out quite yet, but it's very close. It's very close. And so they can be kept in the loop about it, of when it comes out, by going to your website, thespeechslayer.com. So they
Yes.
can get the updates there. But there's a lot more that they can get there as well, because you have a free little mini course on public speaking that's available right there. You also offer a talk story time directly with you. So that's some direct one-on-one time to talk about as a consultation. So a lot of resources that you have available right there on your website. And I can't wait to hear the update on that book, because
Thank
I'm on
you.
I'm on the list. I want to be one of your first purchasers.
Good.
That's for
Well,
sure.
the book will be out. It'll be out Halloween week. I decided that was like the best week to have it come out. So that's one of my favorite holidays. And so it'll be, yeah, look for it that week. I'll be doing the launch. And yeah, if you go to the website, my mini course is the 7 Deadly Sins of Public Speaking. So I'm talking all about the things that I really don't want you to do. That I see all the time speakers do. So you can find those out, and I think it's less than 10 minutes. It's a really easy peasy course. And yeah, sign up for a free consult with me. I can just hear what your speaking goals are, give you some tips. All of that.
Yeah. So I actually took your course,
Oh,
um,
cool.
uh, and it was a while back.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I need to go through that little mini course again. Yes, it was very short. I had a speaking engagement yesterday for a networking event over at BNI,
Yeah.
and I am sure that I did some things that are on that list that I should not have done.
Oh,
And it's the kind of thing to where constant learning.
yeah.
It's not going and doing something just once and then we got it.
Yeah.
It's that repetition, just like you were saying, of being comfortable with your speech, comfortable with your presentation. That's because you have internalized it. And
Yeah.
that's the same with that lifelong learning, is that yes, we can take a course once, but it's important to review.
Yeah, I mean, I probably need to review it too, because but one of the tips I believe is letting go of perfection, because we're never going to be perfect. And often, a speech can also be a little too polished. If you get out there and you want to say every word perfectly, and that's the most important thing to you is to get through it and do it perfect, then that's really not, that's not the best speech, because you're losing that human kind of vulnerability and that connection that you can have with the audience by letting yourself just be open to things maybe not going quite how you planned, but still connecting and really seeing that audience, because it's really never about you, it's about them. So I think the more we release ourselves from the idea, I'm going to say every word perfectly and this is going to be so great, maybe that is great for you, but it's really about the audience. So and to connect with the audience, I especially learned this doing stand-up comedy, because there's nothing more vulnerable than that kind of speaking. And you have to release the idea that you're going to just say these stories and get these laughs and do it the way you've practiced, because the audience adds this dimension that is just going to be unexpected. And you have to be able to like release and be confident enough to be really present in that. And I think with all speaking, I think being the more present we are, and really, being grounded with the people that are right there in front of us, asking them questions, making it more of a conversation rather than a presentation, it's going to be more memorable and impactful for them.
And as you're speaking, I keep on having different flashbacks. And one of them is because of being on stage at our local theater, to where it's a play. And each night it's a different audience. So
Mm,
each night you have different feedback, different energy in the room.
yeah.
And there have been times to where you're expecting a laugh.
Yeah.
You're expecting the audience to go wild with a particular line. And it seems like nobody gets it.
It's so hard. I mean, the energy comes from the audience, really, even if it's virtual. Like there is an energy that's created there when people get together, and we're humans and we all have different personal reactions to things. I've done the same comedy I did a set at Kahilu Theater, and it was so great. It was just like, I loved it so much. It's so many laughs. It was boosted my confidence. I went into Oahu that next week and did the same set. And I was like, I got this. This is gonna be great. Like I was great last week. It's gonna be great this week. And I bombed so bad. Like I never wanted to go back to that place again. I was just like, I just wanted to go home and bury myself in a hole or something. It was awful. It was such a good experience for me though. It's really humbling, and you learn so much when you bomb. And you're gonna bomb. I mean, that's the thing, is like with public speaking, you kind of have to be bad at it before you get better. I think people have to realize that. And your confidence comes out of doing it more in action, the action of doing it, not thinking about being confident, right? You have to get out and just do it. And eventually that skill gets, I believe confidence is really like a skill you learn. And eventually you know how to do it, like riding your bike. You're not thinking about it anymore. You just are confident. But you do have to mess up quite a bit to get there. Sorry to say, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that brings another analogy, because you said riding your bike. When you're riding your bike, you're not thinking about all the different aspects of how you're riding the bike and the movements and how you're holding the handlebars. It becomes automatic because you've been practicing.
Yeah.
And so that's the same then when people are practicing their speech. At first, it's thinking about all the different details. Then once they internalize it, then it's automatic, and it's like riding a bicycle, and they
Yeah.
can just go with it. And
It's
if
so
there's
true.
a bump on the road or a puddle, they can just maneuver around it, or they can just splash right through it if that's what they want.
Yeah. And it's such a good feeling when those stars all align. I used to have to, like in BNI, you brought up, and we give little commercials that are very short. And I remember being so nervous in the beginning, giving those commercials. I mean, I had to think about each step. Like, okay, I'm gonna, like, I'd have little mantras for myself, and I'd practice, and I'm making eye contact, and I'm doing all these things. I'm thinking about it so much though. And now it's like it just gets ingrained in you, and you're not thinking about all the things you need to do. You're just doing it. And then I get to focus more on, okay, what did people like? What's going to move people today? Like, what do I really want as a client right now? And I think about that message and how I can get it through, and I get to have fun with it. And really, if we're not having fun in our speaking and when we're connecting with people, no matter how dark the topic, I think there's a element of delight and joy we can bring to it. And if we're not feeling that, no one else is feeling that either. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And so BNI is actually how you and I got to meet. And we got to meet,
Did.
it had been like more than 5 years ago that
Yes.
we got a
I've been
chance.
here. Actually, my islandversary is, I believe, today. I think it's
Ooh,
today. So yes, 6 years. Yep.
happy
Yeah.
Islandversary.
Yeah.
Happy Islandversary.
Yeah.
And so in BNI, we got to meet because what you do is with speech. And what I do is representing a company called Promptings, which provides a service where people get to act on their promptings to reach out in kindness and appreciation and gratitude and connect heart to heart. So you do use our service. Is there a story as a storyteller that comes to mind of a card either that you have sent or that you have received that you would like to share?
Mm. I have promptings down on my list of things to do. At least once a week, I'm holding myself accountable. I'd like it to be once a day that I send someone a card randomly, because I do receive them in the mail, and often from you. And that random act of kindness just goes a long way. But the story I have is one I'll never forget, that I'll hold in my heart forever. And it happened in 2020 when I'd gone to speak at a conference in Indonesia. And it was early March 2020. It was my birthday. The day I left, I remember thinking, this year is going to be like the best ever. Like, what could go wrong? I'm speaking at this conference. I mean, I got to be a keynote speaker for the first time. Like, everything's awesome. And yeah, little did I know I was going to be there about 2 weeks. And I ended up being there 4 months, quarantined in the country, not able to get home, really missing my son, my family. And but had all these really life-changing experiences while I was there. And I didn't think, I posted on Facebook quite a bit, trying to still stay in touch and connect with people. I didn't think anyone really noticed, or, you don't, and when you're in your own world, like, you don't think anyone else really cares. But I was doing it kind of just for me to keep track of my memories. And then when I finally got home, it's actually the 4th of July. So I just had that anniversary too, 3 years since that experience. And I went out to my mailbox one day, and I'll just never forget it. I think it was close to 70, it's a collection, 70 cards, upside down. I remember that day. all of my experiences in Indonesia, just amazing experiences, pictures of me. Oh, that's a dragonfly. Um, and they're all from you. They're all from Marianne. And she had taken these from my Facebook posts and turned them into cards. And it says Bali Memories on the back. And I don't know if you know this, but the other book I've started writing, it's called, I was in Bali 123 days. So it's called 123 Blessings from Bali. And these will probably be in the book. And it helps me so much, like remember those little vignettes, because I want it to be like 123 just little things that I learned, little offerings from Bali, blessings that I learned while I was there every day, and those cards, it just meant so much to me. Like, can you imagine getting that many cards in the mail in one day, unexpected? It wasn't my birthday, and BNI is amazing. I get more cards from BNI on my birthday than I do from my family. So it's, we're our own family. But that act of kindness, like, I'll never forget that you did that. And when I'm feeling low, I look through these cards and just, some of the memories I may have forgotten, but this reminds me so much of that. So yeah, promptings, it really changes people's lives. Kindness can change lives. And yeah, it was kind of a dark time when I came home, and it really, really helped. Thank you.
Mm, wow. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that's the story you were going to share. Thank you.
Oh, it's the story for me of promptings. Like, it's like there's no other story. Like, there's other stories, but this is the story for me. Yeah, so I'll never
Mm,
forget it. Thank you.
thank you. Well, I want to say thank you to you for coming on to Prompting Stories and sharing about how you are helping others to share their own stories. And so if they would like to reach out to you and connect, find out more about your book, take your course, do consultation, develop their storytelling, they can reach out to you through your website, which is thespeechslayer.com. That's the easiest way to just go on there and reach out.
Yes.
But you are creating a ripple effect
Mm,
to where at this point in time, we can see just the very start.
mhm,
And we have no idea how far it's going to go, to where we know that as it goes around the world, ripples come back in so many different ways.
mm,
So the impact that you're making is tremendous as you're helping people to share their stories, whether they want to be a public speaker or it's even just in their business. And there's no such thing as just to
mm,
where it's in their business as a public speaker, to share their story even with friends and family, because that in itself can have a tremendous impact.
mm,
So by listening to your heart and listening to the promptings that you have had over the years to take you on this path and this journey, it's one of those things that I can't imagine what life would be if you hadn't listened to that. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Thank you for having me. It's been really, really special. And you're such a special person. You have no idea like how much heart you share and love and warmth and just that kindness, that you spread and inspire others to do the same is beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And to everybody who chimed in, listening, feel free to add your comments and maybe things that you had ahas about, and share it with someone that you know that could benefit from hearing today's stories with Laura. So until next time, hui ho, and thank you.
Thank you.